This is Sandy Shellis from Environmental Coffee House. And as always, we will wait and build an audience. But as we are waiting, I will introduce Ray Alt, who is the admin of a very large group on Facebook called Run Tulsi Run. I think there's, 29,000 people that interact with that group. Is that right?
That's correct. Just under 30,000.
That's a big group. And she's so popular, so it's pretty terrific. Well, Ray, how I usually start is I read something that is apropos to the discussion. So I'm going to jump right in and get started, and then we're going to go over who you are, and then we'll go over some other things. Okay, this is something, the latest and of Tulsi's. Off Act is critical to climate preservation. As the California wildfires spread without containment and thousands of families are forced to evacuate, other families along the Texas Gulf Coast, the Florida Keys, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands are still recovering from months after natural disasters impacted their own communities. Our infrastructure, energy system, emergency services, and the government were hardly prepared for so many natural disasters in succession. That is why it is more important than ever that we commit to 100% clean, sustainable energy with the Off Act. I think it is wonderful, and I did not realize how extensive this is. So, Ray, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing?
Well, basically, started the Facebook group Run Tulsi Run, but here to promote the Off Fossil Fuels Act, HR 3671. It was introduced by Congresswoman Gabbard, and like I said, her bill tries to get us 100% to renewables by 2035 and 80% by, I believe, 2027. And I think it's a bill that's got a lot of momentum. It just came out. It has, I think, about 25, maybe 25 or so co-sponsors already in the House, and a number of candidates running for House in 2018 that have pledged their support.
That's very exciting. That is really exciting. And then, so it's going to get momentum. And can you tell us a little bit about what you expect to be, what maybe your role might be between that group that you run and future aspirations to maybe volunteer? Because you said you were doing all that you did for Bernie.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Referring to our discussion about volunteering for Bernie. Yeah. I mean, obviously, of course I would if Congresswoman Gabbard decided to run. Absolutely. I would be on board 100%. But I think it's again, going back to the bill, though, there are currently a lot of great candidates that are running for office that do support it, because that's really the crux of it. It's got to get momentum in the House, and there's a lot of pressure coming from the outside for those who haven't currently co-sponsored the bill. For example, our favorite Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, hasn't, she's nowhere to be found on this. She's funded by fossil fuel interests. But Tim Canova, our good friend, he's been one of the biggest champions for the Off Fossil Fuels Act. And in fact, he was one of the first candidates that I reached out to, because, I know of his work on the Sable Trail pipeline, I believe it is. He was just, huge in drumming up resistance to that down in Florida. And so Tim's been extremely supportive and helped getting the word out for the bill. So I was excited about that. But there's also, like I said, a number of candidates, many even from Texas, like you mentioned.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, remind me. What did I talk about? Texas. Wow.
Well, again, with the recent storms, they're still recovering, right, from the hurricanes, and you've got Derek Crow, great candidate, okay, and he was endorsed by Bill McKibben, no less, who sits on the Sanders Institute along with Congresswoman Gabbard. So, and not only that, John Duncan, who's running in Texas. I'm trying to think. There's Sima Hernandez is another one that's helped getting the word out in Texas. And my goodness, I know I'm leaving somebody out, and saying I'm going to feel bad about it, but I'll get back to them.
Oh, you'll get there. You'll get there. And I also saw that Food and Water Watch is doing a lot with this, and they have. Let me see. They have a whole thing. If you guys, I'll put the link up, but I've been putting articles on the page all day about this whole thing. And Food and Water Watch is partnered, and they have a lot of programs. And if you don't mind, Tim, I'll just go over them really quickly. Don't pollute our fruit, and fighting a transatlantic fracking pipeline to plastic waste, get rid of factory farms, clean energy revolution, public water for all, ban fracking everywhere, save our environmental laws from the marketplace. And then they had We Stop the TPP and Save Antibiotics. It's time to end the overuse of antibiotics and ban fracking on public land. So they cover everything that Environmental Coffee House stands for. What a match. What do you think of that?
We'll have to get you connected with them for sure.
Yeah,
I think there's a good potential there for promotions for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Well, what are your thoughts on what's going on in the environment? Tell me, what do you think, Tim? I mean, Ray. Tim. I'm thinking Tim Canova because you just said his name, Ray.
Yeah. Like I said, Tim's doing good. Well, I mean, you can go and look. A lot of the candidates have made videos to explain it. Mal Hyman, a candidate running in South Carolina, he made a great video explaining how the acidification of the oceans, where it basically starts there, and that works as heats up the environment. And so again, there's things that that we are doing that we can to get off fossil fuels. I mean, this is not a fairy tale type bill. This is something very realistic and achievable. Of course, there's going to be special interests against it, but again, another candidate that brought it up, Patrick Nelson, running in New York, made a video, and he was talking about how these things they call them like fire trains. When they're transporting, or bomb trains, because they blow up and explode, and they create these crazy fires just when you're trying to transport it, and that and then that the fuel is so obviously dirty, to burn it, and so. There's a lot of incentive. The bill removes the tax subsidies, from the fossil fuel industry. So you hit them in the pocketbook as well as the market. The market is moving in the away from fossil fuels as well. So this is a dying industry. I mean, even the World Bank just recently announced that I think that after 2 years, that's it. They're closing it off, as well as I believe a few other notable institutions. So this is a dying industry. And so, we've really got an opportunity, though, because we can't wait for it to die. We've got to kill it off right now while it's weak, because, time is not on our side.
No, time is not on our side. And we need to have, along with these things, we also have to have a campaign that says, listen, this is the science. It's real. And we're up against a formidable opponent. And in the United States, it's so incredibly corrupt. And there are these climate denying videos and channels all over trying to say, hey, it's not happening. And I tell these people, my gosh, what are you going to tell your grandchildren or your children if there are grandchildren? What did you do to help them? No, we have a fight.
Exactly. There's this collective. We have this collective inertia. But we have to we have to get moving. We've got to put a lot of pressure on our congressmen. We got to make the calls. I mean, everything that we've done, that the activist community has done since Bernie announced a couple of years ago, we've really ended up in victory, outside of course, the most important one we were cheated out of. We won't get into all of that. But
Yeah, I know.
the point is, we've been extremely successful at every endeavor when we've put the work in. And we've got the millennial generation is the largest, most diverse generation. And they're looking for a bill like this. This is like real. The environment is one of their top concerns. Of course.
It could be they are the generation that's going to have to live what we did, my generation. You're younger than me, what my generation did. And I have a 29-year-old and, a girl, and I feel guilty all the time because it's not going to be so easy for her 20 years from now, especially with Arctic melting. And, kids now have to learn resilience. They have to learn to work with their hands. They're going to have to learn to take care of their land, and in cities break out differently. There's so much, but this bill is a start, and it's almost like it has to happen. It has to happen. We have to get those deniers out of Congress in 2018.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and it could happen. It could happen quickly as well. I mean, you take back the House in 2018. You've got something, but the Senate will be a little bit tougher, but it got a little easier with the Moore victory. With Doug Jones's victory.
Yeah, the Moore victory for him to get out.
But yeah, there's only 8 Republican seats up, which is amazing, when you think about it, 8 out of 33. But this is a bill, though, that that can get passed. And if we continue to just organize and be active, like I said, I've seen a lot of victories. One big disappointing, but other than that, when we keep pushing, we win. And so I hope that people will continue to support this bill.
Look at what Desmond said. It should be called climate change instead of climate change, because we're seeing the effects already. Desmond Berry is an activist out in Michigan. He's working to get rid of Line 5 going under the Mackinac Straits. If you can check, they have a new page called Seventh Legacy Generation. And Seventh Generation. Write it down, Desmond. 7th Generation, I think, environmental. That's what it is. And it is an indigenous focused environmental page, and they're going to work with us. So I think I'd love to get Desmond involved with us in this.
Yeah, she's coming to Michigan in the spring. So tell Desmond that.
Well, he's listening.
I'll pass along more specifics.
All right, we'll get you that. We'll get you that. Well, I think this is great. Off fossil fuels and HR 3671, and the bill is up, and you guys can Google it and see the bill. But we put up a lot of things today. Anybody have questions? We were going to try to not do a very long time. What do you guys out there? You have questions that you want to ask? Or Karen says, get them out. All of those bought and paid for corporate-owned government shills. We all know the score. And this is really the last chance. I mean, I feel like sometimes we are at the tipping point, and there are people that will argue with me and say we're already over the tipping point. I could do that. Somebody told me today, Ray, that I'm old. Somebody told me today that I'm optimistically naive, and I just don't feel that way. I don't know. When you know what's going on, it seems like Tulsi knows the score.
I mean, we all have to, recognize, and it's also, I mean, she also kind of walks the walk, not just with the bill, but she's a vegetarian. She doesn't eat meat, which is a big contributing factor to global warming. But on a real sad note, I recently read an article where there were scientists that were actually taking their own lives because they were so depressed that people would not listen to them about the dangers of global warming. And yeah, that's what's going to happen is if we do not act, there will be a reckoning. So we've got to this bill definitely needs to get a lot of people pushing behind it. And a phone call is not too much to ask, considering the nature of the problem we're dealing with.
Let's see what Michael said. Teach the kids to drop out of high school, turn into ECH, and turn on the truth. Thank you. Actually, high school should be teaching resilience. High school should be teaching kids how to farm. High school should be teaching kids how to work with their hands in the future and how to survive. That is what high schools should be doing. And the high schools of Betsy DeVoe are doing our kids a very big disservice.
Indeed.
Indeed. But anyway, Tulsi Gabbard, before we go, just give a little background about her and Hawaii for us.
Well, she actually created an environmental nonprofit as a teenager, and I think she still plays a significant role. Perhaps like vice president or something like that. But it's still in existence today. But she was the youngest person to ever become a state rep, the youngest woman to be ever to represent her state. She's 21, and she's got 15, 16 years of public service and a big champion of the environment and serving in the National Guard and military and legislative aid, Honolulu City Council. And she's just great. She's so accessible to her constituents as well. She's got a Congress on your corner type thing where she literally sets up a little tent, a couple chairs, and some place and where people can come up and talk. So it's not just it's not just an email or a phone call. She's a real person out there, and not just even in Hawaii. I find she's very accessible for someone who has so many demands on her time. She's very accessible. When she's with you, you've got her full attention. So yeah, she's really amazing.
It's awesome. We got to keep an eye on her because she seems to me the person that can't be bought out. But people do say they're afraid that the DNC wouldn't get behind her if she ran for president. But I'll tell you what, we've learned a lot. And if we want her as a candidate, it doesn't matter if she's got a D or what she has. It is her and what she stands for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, time and time again, she's shown that she's just willing to be her own person and use her own mind and come up with the best judgments. And and that's something that's why she's so hard to define, I guess. And people can't sometimes understand like why so many people and a lot of Republicans like her for a variety of reasons, because she can't be pigeonholed. Because she's very unique, a lot like Bernie, obviously. She believes what she believes, and she makes her decisions based on evidence and judgment, not partisanship and ideology.
Which is going to save, I mean, if anybody is going to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat, it might be her, but it has to be now. I mean, we are in such a critical state. 2018, everybody, I tell everybody, and I don't care if anybody thinks I'm a naive optimist. This is it. What can we do? And I also tell people to be where they live, be election inspectors. Then you have some control over what's going on.
Without a doubt. Yeah, you have to, right. You have to play every role that the party plays. You have to
Mhm.
have someone, you know, if Bernie and Tulsi run, you've got to have somebody doing exit polls, right? You've got to have poll watchers, you know,
Absolutely.
whatever role, you know, you can play. You've got to kind of mirror their infrastructure. And right, be, you know, I mean, it's full attack. And, you know, one of the things I would like to mention though, as far as, you know, bring up the Dem enter, Dem exit argument.
Hmm.
And I think when you start from that frame point, you kind of already are going to have like, you know, a stalemate. The best thing to do is just run for office. You know, support the candidates that are running for office, and not, you know, not 99, you know, percent of the incumbents.
I understand here where I live in a little rural district of New York, we have 10 phenomenal people running to get one spot against Congressman Tom Reed, the all of the above energy Republican
That's in
sellout.
California.
New York, Western New
Uh,
York, 10 people we have.
oh, wait. 23.
Yeah,
Um,
23 in New York
I'm trying to think of. I think I know 23. That's just against Stefanik.
against Tom Reed.
Oh,
Tom Reed.
Tom Reed.
Yeah, Tom Reed. He's the all of the above energy guy. He owns a medical collection agency. Talk about a sellout. And I don't like him, and he doesn't like me because I live stream when I go to his town halls. And
Oh,
I'm
nice.
not a heckler. I just ask questions about, you know, the environment. And he's not, his answer is always the stock. I'm the all of the above energy guy, and I want to say F you, but I wouldn't do that. I'm too professional. But if we get if we, any one of these 10 people, but I see this is going on all over the country. These 10 people are not climate deniers. They understand we can maybe, and then if we do that here, maybe we could get the globe to follow us again, because we're the laughing stock of the whole world right now. Marcon's got it. He's getting our scientists.
Yeah, well, at least he's putting them to work.
Yeah,
You know, this is a not just a local problem. I mean, it's a global problem. And we've got to, you know, we've got to find solutions. And this bill is, you know, a big step in that direction,
it's great.
for sure. So,
Well, I think we've come full circle then. I think we've come full circle. Everyone, the bill, I'm just going to get on here one more time. It's the summary page is on congress.gov, HR 3671, 115th Congress, and then Food and Water Watch org, because that is where we can partner and get involved. And I think Environmental Coffee House is ready. And I'm going to hook up with them. And everybody that wants to take the journey with me, we have nothing to lose. We have all to gain, because if we don't do anything, we lose. And then we lose all the way around. So, Ray, I didn't call you Tim this time.
yeah.
Any last comments for everybody here?
Just stay active and stay involved. Don't listen to the naysayers. You know, I think our democracy is in the shape it's in because of the low participation. So, if you're in the game, there's a good chance you're going to win it. So, good luck, everyone, and support HR 3671.
Right on. All right, everybody. I will just put up Desmond. Everything to gain and nothing to lose is right. And Judy says, great conversation. Judy, I'm going to end with you. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to see us do this again, and I'm going to invite you back again.
Wonderful.
Yep, we see what happens getting towards election time and primary time. Okay?
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Good night, everybody. Peace. I love you. Thank you for coming.